Hello and welcome. Today, once again, we are playing Space Engineers, and I have decided that rather than continuing to ponder where exactly I'm going to stick a landing pad, I am instead going to be upgrading my rover. So, when you start on the Earth start nowadays, you start out with the respawn rover, which, as you saw in the previous episode, I had made a few modifications to, basically removing the survival kit to stick a cargo hold on the back. Now, however, I want to have a ship or a vehicle that has a lot more cargo space. And to do that, first thing I did is I went ahead and I turned this sensor off so I can go ahead and work in here without any puppy dog attacks. And then I'm going to go ahead and start building off the back of this connector. Now, the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to go ahead and put a rotor down, delete the top of it, and then I'm going to come on over here to the incomplete rotor, and I'm going to add a small head. So this is a nice easy way to go from large block to small block, and then I can come on up here and just build a little line out over to here. And then I should be able to build a connector now. There we go. And now I will go ahead and say and I'm going to use CR because this is going to be a cargo rover. And I want to go ahead and lock this. Alright, now that this is locked in position, I can now come on over here and just delete these blocks. There we go. Alright, so starting from the back, now with my last rover, I had the medium cargo container connected to the connector right here. This gives me about 3,000, 3,300 space, liters of space, which was not enough for me at least. Now I could go ahead and like stick a few of these on, or I could go ahead and stick on the large cargo container. This would give me about 15K space. However, this is a rather large, bulky thing to try and figure out how to go ahead and build wheels around and so on. Or there's the modular cargo container here. This has about 10,000 liters of space, which is about 3 times as much as the previous one had. Additionally, it's the same height, but it is wider. But that still means that I can go ahead and stick that on and not run into too many issues trying to make it work without rolling over. And I don't know how you guys are with driving rovers or driving vehicles in games, but I'm a master of flipping the vehicle over. So having something that makes it more challenging is always a good thing, in my opinion. Now, one of the fun things that I can do is I actually think that this might be a little bit too low to easily work with, so I'm actually going to come on over here and I'm going to go ahead and change these hinges, and I'm going to change this to a negative 60. And then I flop some things around here, so I'm going to change this one to 30. There we go. And basically, by doing that, I have just raised this whole rover piece up some. All right. Now, the next thing that I want to do is I want to add my battery. So, need a full-size battery for this, and I'm just going to go ahead and stick it on right here. And then let's go ahead and add the cockpit. Now, with the cockpit options that I've got available, there's this one here, which is the standard cockpit. Note there's two connectors on the back, one on the front, and then a 3x3 on the bottom. Relevant here is that oars and such can go through the small connectors, but components can only go through the big connectors. Um, so if I wanted to go ahead and be able to have the cockpit connected up and be able to push things like components through, I would need large connector to large connector. And I could do that by, say, sticking it on top. However, that doesn't really work how I want it to. The flush cockpit is basically the same thing, but I now have some little side connectors that I can work with. Um, and it's a little bit longer. The fighter cockpit has a big connector on the back, and then small ones on the bottom and front. The industrial has two small connectors on the back and then one on the top. Which, if I rotate it like this, so there's no way to get large piece connectors there, but I could go ahead and do something like stick it right here, or maybe even right here, and then just run a connector across the top, which would be a valid way of doing things. Finally, the cab cockpit has two lower connectors on the front and back, and then one big one in the middle. For the design I'm going for, I'm actually going to go with this cab cockpit right here. And if I come back on over here, you can see after the cab, it's just the normal one. Now, you can get a very similar design to what I'm building right now by swapping this cab cockpit out for the normal one. Or the default, I should say. Alright, so as it is now, there is no way to go ahead and directly connect from the cargo container to the cab cockpit. So this is part of why I lifted it up off the ground. So what I want to do is I'm going to come down here, and I am going to grab a conveyor converter. And I'm going to put a conveyor converter on the bottom here. Oh, and I need some interior plates. And then I'm also going to put one on the bottom of the cab. And now from here, I can basically just go ahead and run a line straight from the front to the back. But one of the things that I can also do is I can go ahead and stick on oxygen and a small hydrogen tank along this line. So let's go ahead and figure out a rotation for this. So I'm going to put this here and then this here. There we go. And then once I'm done with that, I can just go ahead and put some connectors in place here. So I want to go ahead and put a small T connector here. There we go. All right, so I've got that connected there and there. And now I can go ahead and grab a small corner. And then up here, I can also go ahead and put that corner and then that T back on. And there we have it. Now, a good argument would be made to go ahead and flip these over so that way I can see that it is actually connected. Um, you know what? Sure, let's do that. And that's a good reason why. All right. All right, that is properly connected. Yep. All right, let's redo that. And then I need this one to be like this. There we go. And everything is properly connected down there. I do have two spots right here where I can go ahead and stick something in. Right over here, I'm actually going to go ahead and stick a gyro. And let's stick it to the cargo container. And that will just hopefully be enough to help me flip this over if I manage to, excuse me, roll it over improperly. All right, and then, let's see here. The only other thing that I need for this now then would be wheels. Getting an ore detector or a antenna on would also be nice. So let's see here. Knew they were going to come. All right, so let's go ahead and stick an ore detector on here. And that'll just let me search out any ores while I'm driving around. And then I can go ahead and I will stick an antenna on top of this. Yeah, I'll figure that out later. Alright, so let's go ahead and start talking wheels. So I have 5 set up to be my left. So if I'm looking at the front, the left is going to be on this side. And I'm using the off-road suspension simply because I think it looks cooler. Um, but you can use whatever you would like there. And I want those. The important thing here is there's the off-road suspension, and then there's also the off-road short wheel suspension. So if I use the short wheel suspension, I can go ahead and stick this on, say, right here. And after sticking it on here, it's going to be basically the same distance as the edge of the modular cargo container. If I go with the wheel suspension, it basically pushes it out another block, and it means that I can actually fit it in the exact same spot, but I need to go ahead and have it connect further back. Now, I did do a little bit of testing with a truck like this, and having basically 5 blocks wide was sufficient to make it hard for me to flip it. So I'm going to go with something that gets me that 5 blocks wide. Thank you. Yeah. So if I do this right here, then up here, then I want to go ahead and use the short suspension. There we go. All right, so I've got the short up front and then the long in back. But the same width, or the wheels are basically in line with each other. And one moment while I go and deal with the noisemakers. There we go. All right. So now that that's out of the way, let's come back on over here, and I'm going to choose my right wheels this time. So again, I'm starting with the normal suspension, and then I'm using the short suspension up front. And I put it on wrong way around, so let's try this again and flip it over. There we go. All right. So once I get the wheels up, technically this is enough for the vehicle to be able to do everything that it needs to do. However, it doesn't look the greatest, so I'm going to go ahead and weld these wheels up. And then I'm also going to go ahead and stick a whole bunch of armor on it. If I can. There we go. There we go. So this, as said, is sufficient, and I could start driving as it is right now. But I want a little bit more. All right, so I have a small little gap right there. Ooh, these are offset. Do I want it there, or do I want it? I think I want this pushed forward one. So let me go ahead and pull this off. There we go. Do I want it there, or do I want that pushed back one? I think it'll be fine. All right, so for the greebling here, I'm going to go ahead and stick on a nice little row of these light armor slopes. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick on these light armor panels. After I grab a whole bunch of steel plates. There we go. Come back here. And I need to grab one of these blocks and then one of these blocks. And then Alright, and now let's go ahead and see if I can find a nice little corner block that does what I want it to here. So this could work. See if I can get something more triangular. And I like that one better. Yeah. Alright, so now I can come on down this side. There's a little gap right here. Let me weld that in.
Energy low.
And then let's head on over to my base and recharge my energy. And also eat some kelp crisps. Alrighty, so I've kind of got a base layer down. And now let's also go ahead and wrap this around the front. Alright, and now I kind of like have a little boat shell going on. So now let's come back here and I want to go up a little bit. Here. Alrighty. And then can go ahead and stick a line of the light armor panels right down here. Now, if you would like here, you could go ahead and do the line of light armor panels up one higher to cover this port. However, with the way I'm planning to use this truck, being able to access the port on the side could be useful occasionally, so I'm going to leave that exposed. Alright, then let's come on over here, and I want to go ahead and add in a pair of spotlights up front. Just check and see if I could do that, or I could actually let's do these. Okay, just looking for a, here we go. Hmm. Yeah, I changed my mind. Let's go ahead and put those normal spotlights in right here. Yeah. And then over here, I'm actually going to go ahead and put in an inset light. And then an inset light there. Alright, and now to fill out this side. The right way? Nope. Rotate that, and then let's start adding armor blocks. Alright, there we go. So we've got some lights around, we've got some spotlights up front, and we've got easy access to the cargo hold. Overall, looks good. The other thing that doing it this way does is I do have access to this top port here. So I could go ahead and choose to put something up top later on if I wanted to. Now, is there anything else that I want to do with this? You know what? Let's actually do this. Go ahead and give it kind of a black stripe down the middle. There we go. That looks nice. Just add a touch of color. And now let's go ahead and disconnect this lock. Alrighty. So if I come in here, I can scooch forward just a little bit. There we go. And now let's go ahead and adjust the height of the... Go ahead and change... Alright, trying to remember not to press the wrong buttons here. Negative 70. And then 20. Alright, so that lowered it. And hopefully I didn't mess too much up with the recording. And now I can take this out of park, scooch it back a little bit, and let me go ahead and set up my connector. And while I'm in here, might as well do a bunch of renaming. And make life easier on myself by going ahead and copy pasting things. Once everything has my little tag, then I will go ahead and start adjusting some things. Alright, so spotlights. So these are forward facing, giving them 120. Yep, intensity, that's about right. But let's go ahead and adjust the colors a little bit. There. And then let's adjust that intensity down a little bit. And now that I'm done with that, I can go ahead and hide that. Alright, oxygen tank and hydrogen tank. I will just set to auto refill bottles. Ore detector is fine. I don't need to be seeing that. The modular cargo container is fine. The inset lights, I generally want to go ahead and maximize my radius here. Adjust the intensity way down to like 2. And then once again, I want to adjust that color. And then for 4 and 5, actually, let's try this. I adjust these. Yeah, so that's that rear light. And now let's go ahead and see if I have which one this one is. Alright, so that's that side. That's not what I want. So, inset light 2. Alright, so inset light 2 is the other rear one. Inset light 1 is that one, so right light, left light. Alright, and then number 4 is left side light, and then this one's going to be the right side light. Alright, so I want the left and the right lights to basically kind of illuminate the area nicely. And then the 2 rear lights, I want to go ahead and lower the radius of these. Basically, they are more for being able to see, and then lower the intensity some. And then these are going to be rear lights, so let's go ahead and make them red. And once we are done with all of that, we can go ahead and hide those. And there you see, I've got 2 red rear lights. Perfect. Alright, next up, I want to know which wheels are which. So let's go ahead, come on in here, and I'm going to go ahead and change this one. It says left So I'm going to change the height offset. So this is going to be the front left tire. And that means that this one then is going to be the rear left. And let's just confirm by futzing with the height offset. Yep. Alright, and then shift on over to this side. And I'm going to go ahead and check this one. Futz with the height offset. So this is going to be the front right. Which then would mean that this is the rear right. Alright, so now let's go ahead and stick these in a group. There we go. Alright, so my front wheels, I want to go ahead and have steering, but I do not want to brake with my front wheels, so that way I do not have fun things like flipping over forwards. But I do want them to steer my vehicle. Propulsion is fine, everything else is fine. I do want to go ahead and I will adjust all of that in just a little bit. And then for the rear wheels, I do not want steering, but I do want these ones to be in charge of braking. Finally, I'm going to grab all of these, and then I'm going to go ahead and adjust the strength, and I'm going to put this up to about 20%. And then I'm going to adjust my speed down to about 100 kilometers per hour. This should hopefully prevent me from performing too many oopsies when I'm running around in it. Alright, so now that I've got all that in place, let me come on over here and turn my sensor back on. And let's take this guy out for a spin. So the doors are now open. Alright. Whee! Alright, so that is way up on the hill. Alright, so it's maxing at about 25 meters per second, which should be hopefully fast enough or slow enough that I don't have to worry about performing too many stunts. Turning on flat ground is fine. There's a slight amount of tipping. So I've got some terrain over here that is a little bit less flat. So let's come on over here and see how it performs over here. I think I could probably go ahead and increase the speed limit on this Rover if I wanted to. Alright, so a nice little hill here. Coming up the hill, turning on the hill. It does want to wobble a little bit, but isn't too bad. Getting a little bit of air. Alrighty. So overall, ooh, veggies. And I can park. There we go. overall seems like a decent enough vehicle. So let me go ahead and take it back to my base and see how well I can park it. Whee! Okay. So let me come in here really quick to the wheels, and I'm going to adjust the speed limit to be 120. And okay, so that comes out to be a little over 30 meters per second, which should be plenty fast enough. Alrighty. So now I've got a lovely little cargo rover. It's all built up. And I can bring it on in. And as we can see, if I'm sitting in the driver's seat of this rover, I am already in that sensor range. So that may be an upside or a downside. I'm not entirely sure which. But I can come back here, and there we go. Alrighty. So overall, I consider this thing to be a success. And I will probably be using this to haul stuff around for a good bit. Um, but it does still leave me hand mining. So I'm probably going to have to find somewhere that I can hook this up outside, maybe make a little parking lot or something like that. And I do need to go ahead and make an excavator of some sort. Alright, well, things to think about for the future. If you watched all the way to the end, thank you very much. And I will see you in the next one.